Good morning. Welcome to Samasya. Samasya the Problem is a program by JHub where we invite all students and faculties to do research on a particular problem that they identify and submit it. A 360-degree research on a problem identified. This program will happen in 3 phases. Phase 1, where you identify and evaluate a problem and register your team with the problem. In phase 2, you do research and validate whether the problem is real, both literature as well as in field. In phase 3, we prepare a pitch of the problem that you have identified and your research findings and submit a research report. This is Samasya, the program. Here, those who are sick and require a bone marrow testing. So, 5, the size. Level of discontentment, let's say, is an average of 10, and the criticality is a little high, so 14 I have given. So, 29, the total. Let's say team number 3, member number 3 has identified a problem of traffic congestion. The size is very high because it's impact all the roads, so 8. The level of discontentment is not high because you always have many routes to take and to avoid traffic congestion. So, I've given it as an average of 12, and the criticality is actually it causes a lot of pollution and to your health, and also the criticality is not very high. I would put an average of 5. I'm not giving it severe criticality because it's not a question of life and death, but it is critical that you reach on time sometimes and all that. So, traffic congestion is about 15. Now, if you see, I have taken 3 member and 3 member scores of 41, 29 and 35. Now, as per the scores that one member has given is this. Now, these final scores have to be averaged between the 5 of them. So, every team member will prepare this evaluation table, and all the scores will be then averaged. So, team 1, team member 1, member 2, member 3, member 4, member 5 score on problem 1, water scarcity, will be averaged. Similarly, all the 5 scores for bone marrow testing will be averaged, and all the 5 scores for traffic congestion will be averaged. Similarly, all the 5 problems will be averaged, and out of the averages, the highest score will be chosen as the team problem. This is worksheet 1. So, 2. Now, on the submission date, the following have to be submitted. Team 1, the first one is the team problem identified through this exercise. The worksheet 1 of the team problem. Number 2, the worksheet 2, the table of your average of your scores of all the 5. Number 3, a video of 2 minutes of your the team problem. All these 3 have to be submitted to your faculty by December 1st. This ends phase 1. Let's start with phase 1. In phase 1, students individually, each one, have to identify a problem, take a snapshot of the problem, and fill out the worksheet 1, which would be given to them. I will also go to explain the worksheet 1 now shortly. Once the students have identified their individual problem and taken a snapshot, they form teams of 5 students, and each of them pitch their photo and their problem details to the other team members. Once all the 5 have pitched to one another, then they will evaluate which one of these 5 problems have to be picked up as a team problem. In order to do this, worksheet 2 will come handy. In worksheet 2, students will evaluate on a format that is given. And based on this format, they will score each of the problem out of 50 marks and democratically select the problem, one problem out of the 5 problems that has been identified. Post the team problem being identified, the team will shoot a 2-minute video of this problem and submit it to their college authorities. So this is phase 1. So let us just get into the phase 1. So there would be various webinars. The students will take a snapshot and they will discuss, and then the submission date for this is 1st of December. On 1st of December, the teams have to submit to their respective faculties the filled up worksheet 1 of the registered team, worksheet 2, one copy how they evaluated, and a 2-minute video of the team problem. So what is a problem? The problem can be regarded as the difference between the actual situation and a desired situation. So in order for the team to know where the problem is, the team must know where the problem occurs and whether there is a clear understanding of the problem. In order to do that, they have to first search out for the problems. The various sources of the problems are personal experiences that you may have faced the same problem. There could be literature surveys where you could read a lot on research papers and study about, or you could have read about certain articles and then identified some problems. You could be working in some industry, you could be interning in some industry, and you could be talking to people from the industry who would talk about their problems. You could be watching and observing customs that are being followed and you can actually identify some problems. Various tech advancements would also lead to a host of other problems. And also brainstorming and discussion with friends could lead you to identify a lot of problems in many areas. Having come to the sources of problem, it's now very important that once you go through the various sources of problem, each one of you take a snapshot of the problem. Then you go to identify a little more about the problem which you have taken a snapshot of. For this, you need to ask 5 W's once you take a snapshot. The 5 W's are: what is the problem? What is the problem that you have identified? And where is the problem? Who has the problem? When is the problem occurring? And why is the problem occurring? So these 5 W's you need to ask. And this can be asked with the help of worksheet 1 which is given to you. Now more about the 5 questions. What is the problem? And who has the problem? Where is the problem? Why is there a problem? And when is the problem occurring? The timing and the frequency of the problem. Let's go on to what is the problem. The problem is the one that you have identified, and then who has the problem are the various stakeholders who are having this problem, right? So for example, if you have identified the planes taking off late as a problem, who has the problem? The passengers have a problem, the airlines has a problem, the airport authorities have a problem. So who has the problem? Who are the various stakeholders? And then you ask, where is the problem? Now in order to ask where is the problem, problems can come from all quarters. So a fishbone analysis can help us understand where the problem happens. So in the fishbone problem, we look at the various angles of a fish. And if you see the various angles of the fish, you will see that the bones, you can see machines. Is the problem with the machines that are being used? Is there a problem in the methods? So is there a problem because of the late? Is it because of the aeroplane in previous examples I gave you? Or the methods? Is it on the boarding of onboarding and deboarding of passengers? Is it on the checkup of the aeroplane? In which method is the plane getting late? Materials. Is there something wrong with the materials in terms of the fuel that is being used or anything of that sort? Or the environment, is it the weather that is causing the delay in the planes, or is there a metrics? Now sometimes we measure how and what. So is our measurements and methodology of measurements is wrong, or where is that problem occurring because we are measuring the wrong things? And the last is man, which is the people. Is it the pilot who is delaying it? Is it the cleaners who are delaying it? Is it the service people who are delaying it? So all the people involved in the plane. So when you look at a problem, you look at the men involved, the methods that have been used to for the problem to be caused, and we will look at the materials that are being used, and we will look at the machinery, and we will look at the environment. So you study the problem in all 360-degree angles. So where you will know where is the problem occurring. Now whenever you identify a problem is occurring in these places, and the problem is caused because of these things, then we have to dig deeper and ask why is the problem happening. And when you ask the why, you ask at least 5 times. 5 whys, they say with 5 whys you can get to the bottom of the problem. So why is the flight getting delayed? Then you keep answering and asking, yes, it's because of the onboarding process. Why is the onboarding getting late? It's because the passengers are not called according to the numbers. So there is a hustle for and a bustle to get into the seats. Then you say, why are the things? Because the system is not provided. Then you go, why? Like that we can go on asking why, and we can identify what the problem actually is. So that is where you analyze the 5 W's. What is the problem? Who has the problem? Where is the problem? When is the problem? Now when is the problem? How quickly does it happen? Or in what range it happens? What is the size of the problem? How many people have the problem? Now when we talk about this, we just need to give a little bit of metrics to this. For example, you could actually calculate how big the problem is, when is the problem occurring. So if out of 100 flights, 20 flights are delayed on an average every day, then we can say on an average of, let's say, a 10-minute delay, we can look at 10 into 20, so 200 minutes of delay. We can actually find the cost and say the impact of the problem. This is very important that we study for who and what is the impact of the problem. This has to be clearly identified in money and money's terms. So you find out what is the impact of the problem by using certain measurements, and this impact of the problem has to be highlighted in your problem report. With this, we come to a close of phase 1. So in phase 1, the following submissions have to be done to your faculty. Number 1, the worksheet 1 of the team problem that is going to be submitted. Next we go on to the phase 1 second part, which is the evaluation of the problem that you have identified. How do you identify the team problem? For that, each of the individuals come to the table with their snapshot of the problem and worksheet 1 of the problem. In this second part of phase 1, each of the team members, the 5 team members, sit together and brainstorm. Each of them pitches their snapshot and talks about the 5 W's of the problem that they have identified. Once all the 5 problems have been pitched, each one of the team members uses this evaluation table given in worksheet 2 and scores all the ideas out of 50. Now I am going to explain how this evaluation score is being done. All problems are identified on 3 parameters: the size of the problem, which includes the impact, 10 marks, and level of discontentment, 20, and level of criticality is 20. Now let me explain each of these. The size. The size refers to how big the problem is and how big is the impact. So out of 10, you score if the impact is very big. Since you have already evaluated, you score it out of 10. The level of discontentment refers to how discontent are the problem facers with the current solutions. So if there are plenty of solutions available for the problem, the level of discontentment will be low. Or if the current solutions do not satisfy the problem and leave gaps, then too the discontent will be low. So where the discontent is very high, the problem is asking for solutions. So a high score of above 15 to 20 indicates the problem has a high discontentment level in the minds of the problem facers. If there are many solutions and there is not much of discontent with the problem facers, then you can give a low score between 0 and 10. Between 10 and 15, we can give for an average discontentment level. So out of 20, the scoring is 0 to 10 for low discontentment, where there are plenty of solutions already existing. On an average, between 11 and 15 for solutions are little there, but the problem is still having a lot of gaps. And for severe discontentment, you give above 15 to 20 as scores. Next, we come to the third parameter, the criticality. How critical is the problem to the problem facers? Is it a critical which in fact it's a problem, it's a cause of life and it really affects their lifestyles? High criticality score warrants a very high score of between 15 and 20. Low on criticality is then you can give a score little between 0 and 10, and on average criticality between 11 and 15. Now, once these scores are given, I have given a sample score. For example, let's say the problem team member 1 has identified the problem as water scarcity, then I have given on a size of a size out of 10, it's a huge thing. Let's say the village doesn't have water, so 8. Then I'm saying the level of discontentment currently is 16 because the water is not available at all the bore wells have dried up, etc., etc. Then criticality of water to daily life is very high, so I've given a score of 17. The total is 41. Let's say team number 2 has said that there is a problem with bone marrow testing. So he has identified and narrowed it to bone marrow testing. So, and I say the size is very small because the impact is only a little on let's say cancer patients or something. So I've given the size is a very niche area of problem facers here, those who are sick and require a bone marrow testing. So 5. The size. Level of discontentment, let's say, is an average of 10, and the criticality is a little high, so 14 I have given. So 29, the total. Let's say team number 3, member number 3 has identified a problem of traffic congestion. The size is very high because it's impact all the roads, so 8. The level of discontentment is not high because you always have many routes to take and to avoid traffic congestion. So I've given it as an average of 12, and the criticality is actually it causes a lot of pollution and to your health, and also the criticality is not very high. I would put an average of 5. I'm not giving it severe criticality because it's not a question of life and death, but it is critical that you reach on time sometimes and all that. So traffic congestion is about 15. Now if you see, I have taken 3-member scores of 41, 29 and 35. Now, as per the scores that one member has given is this. Now, these final scores have to be averaged between the 5 of them. So, every team member will prepare this evaluation table and all the scores will be then averaged. So, team member 1, member 2, member 3, member 4, member 5 score on problem 1, water scarcity will be averaged. Similarly, all the 5 scores for bone marrow testing will be averaged and all the 5 scores for traffic congestion will be averaged. Similarly, all the 5 problems will be averaged and out of the averages, the highest score will be chosen as the team problem. This is worksheet 1. So, 2. Now, on the submission date, the following have to be submitted. Team 1, the first one is the team problem identified through this exercise. The worksheet 1 of the team problem. Number 2, the worksheet 2, the table of your average of your scores of all the 5. Number 3, a video of 2 minutes of your the team problem. All these 3 have to be submitted to your faculty by December 1st. This ends phase 1. We are now going to start the phase 2 of Samasya. In phase 1, we have identified the team problem and we have taken a video shot of the problem and submitted. In phase 2, we are going to validate the problem. Under phase 2, every team who has identified their team problem need to do a 360-degree research. This research happens in 2 parts. The first is the primary research where you go into the field and talk to 100 problem faces and make out a questionnaire and talk to them and do a lot of research on the problem with the help of these people. By talking to these people through your questionnaire, discussing it with them, noting out your observation, etc. The second is doing a secondary research where we study about 25 research articles which are related to the problem that you have identified and take out the findings of each of these research paper and then condense them to about 4 to 5 lines or to 10 lines. Then you need to prepare a summary of these 25 findings that you have written, the condensed findings that you have written. Then you combine your field research and the academic literature research that you have done and form your own research findings. So this is phase 2 where you validate the problem. A little more into the problem. So let us go to phase 2. Here the team researches the selected problem both in the field as well as through academics. They do a data survey, is the problem real? They do a literature survey and then they prepare a research report. And all this format is given in your worksheet 3. So let's take the secondary research. The survey of literature. Under this, 25 research papers related to the team problem have to be studied. Then the findings of each paper, research paper, need to be condensed to about 5 to 10 lines. Then summarize all the 25 research paper findings into a small summary and you can use worksheet 3 for your reference. This will help us to narrow the scope of the problem. The scope of the problem is very important. We need to find a boundary to the problem. How big is the problem, where the problem, and the scope and the boundaries of how much you're going to do research has to be specified. This literature survey will also help us to find the gaps in the research, perhaps give a little more newer ideas about where are the other problems occurring, paving various designs for further work, discussions, and more importantly, it can help you to rephrase your research problem correctly. Once the part 1, where you do a secondary research of research papers, is done, let me also say the number 25 is not, the final. We can do more research and you will get more bonus points. If you do more than 25 papers have been researched on, then you definitely get bonus points. So this is the first part, and we now go on to the next part, which is the field survey. Now this is the primary research, and in this you have to prepare a questionnaire and talk to 100 problem facers. Now here, and you need to fill up the questionnaire. Now here again 100 is not just 1 point. More than 100 would warrant a bonus point again. So talking to 100 problem facers and filling up your questionnaire. Then all the data that you collect, you need to arrange the data that you have collected. Then you need to analyze it, the arranged data statistically, and then present your findings in graphs and in pie diagrams or things like that, and condense the findings into a summary in your report. So now we have two summaries. One is the literature survey summary and the second is the field survey summary. And we then go on to combine these two and prepare the draft of findings, which need to be submitted to your college faculty on 2nd January 2020. So this is phase 2, where you validate the problem. So I repeat, in phase 2, we need to validate the problem through two things. 25 research papers need to be studied and condensed, the findings to be condensed into a summary. About 100 problem facers need to be interviewed and the findings need to be collated and made into a summary. And you have to prepare a draft of the summary of both the field survey as well as the literature survey, and a combined summary which is called as your draft of research findings need to be submitted in a proper format to your faculty by 2nd January 2020. This ends phase 2. Hi, good morning. We now going to talk about phase 3 of the Samasya program. In phase 1, we identified the problem, evaluated and chose the team problem and made a video pitch. In phase 2, we took out the team problem and did a field survey and we did a literature survey and combined and prepared a research finding draft. In phase 3, we are going to do the following. In phase 3, we are going to pitch the problem using a PowerPoint to a jury who have been selected from the industry. In phase 3, we are also going to submit a full-fledged research report, the Samasya report. So let's go on to see what are the details. While starting phase 3, it's very vital for us to remember that we need to prepare the final draft of the Samasya report. The Samasya report is the main yardstick for measurement of problem validation. So the Samasya research report has to have the following contents. The Samasya report contents will have the following. The first is the introduction to the topic with the identification of the problem area that has been identified to do research upon. The next you talk about the profile of the problem facers, the current solutions being used and the efficacy of the current solutions. And therefore, you will come upon your research objectives, the scope of your research, the literature survey done, the gaps identified, the hypothesis and assumptions of the problem being taken, the research design, sampling and the questionnaire that were used in the field survey, the data analysis of the field survey, the findings, which is the combination of the summaries of both the field research as well as the data research, then the summary and the conclusions. The recommendations for further research in these problem areas, the bibliography and appendix. I must stress the importance of giving the sources of your research reports, and as very clearly in all the tables as well as in your chapters where you have written in the report, whereas the source has to be clearly given in your bibliography, and otherwise it will warrant plagiarism. So this is the Samasya report. We then now go on to what are the contents that need to be given in your pitch. So the pitch needs to talk about, it should not be more than 10 slides, and it should talk about probably what is the problem, how did the selection of the problem and the magnitude of the problem with statistics, the criticality and the discontentment aspects of the problem, the current solutions and the gaps that are thrown into the problem because of these solutions, the impact in money and money's terms obviously, frequency, timings of the problem occurrence, the profile of the problem faces, the literature survey of the problem, the field survey of the problem findings, and the team conclusions about what the problem is, and therefore the problem statement, which has to be finally, clearly, the validated problem statement has to be shown in the pitch. So this is the pitch which needs to be made. So in phase 3, the pitch and the report, a hard copy of the research report and the pitch has to be made to the college authorities. In the college, they would select an external jury, and a 3-member external jury will listen to your pitch and go through your research report, and there would be a selection of the top 10 research reports and pitch of the college, which will be then sent and selected to the central pitching that will happen in J-Hub. So this ends phase 3. So phase 3 involves you to submit to your faculty a hard copy of your research report in the proper research format, and also make a pitch to the external jury with a PowerPoint, the problem that you have analyzed. With the selection, you come to the central Samasya pitch, which will happen in J-Hub. So the last date for submission to your college authorities would be January 16th to January 20th would be the pitch in your college, where you will submit a hard copy of the Samasya report to your college faculty, pitch the problem to the external jury, and the selection of top 10 from each college winners will be sent to the central pitching. Now, the central Samasya pitch will happen on 27th and 28th at J-Hub, and all college winners will compete in the central pitching on the above dates. And here again, the external jury will select the winners and announce on 31st January 2020, the well-researched problem Samasya reports would win prizes. So this is Samasya, the program which we are glad to put up to you. We request all of you to participate enthusiastically and work on the problem. The solution will come to you at a later date, but right now let's focus on Samasya, the problem. Thank you.